Hello, welcome back. Last time I got the elevator diamond, and got to know Well a little bit better. So I had a thought that maybe I could figure out the solution to both of these crystals and just end this game today. I just put in several hours on both of them, doing my best. Elevator crystal continues to elude me. I'm kinda close, but there's a major step missing somewhere in it. However, I think I know what to do in Well, so let's go there right now. So, my suspicion was correct. This is indeed a binary counting mechanism. And I went through a very long process involving a lot of blundering and confusion, eventually synthesizing the exact procedure. Like, I tried to write this down as a list of steps, but it just got more complicated the deeper into the counting I got. So instead, basically, I tuned myself to have some instincts for what to do in a particular situation. So, obviously, first thing I have to do is to bring the block down here. Right, so goal is to get the key out without losing access to the block, because I can't escape this well right now. To get the key out, the block has to be down there. So, the tool that I have for doing that is multiple jar spots. The block has to go up several shelves, labels. This is shelf 0, this is shelf 1, this is shelf 2, this is shelf 3, this is shelf 4 right here. A very important spot. So, my procedure for doing this, let's just go through it. I'll jar out here, and I'll embed that jar in a jar. So the basic operation is this. Everything is built on this basic operation. So one jar on the highest shelf I can reach. Another jar also there. So 2 jars on the highest shelf I can reach. One inside the other in the same place adds up to block being taken up one more shelf and be able to make a jar there. So I have a jar inside a jar on shelf 0. Enter the first one, enter the second one without doing anything else. Exit with block. Block is up, stored here because it's permanent. Okay, so at this point I have nothing. I'm at the bottom level. I have nothing to do. I could either exit or jar out. I jar out. So that's one tuning of my instincts. I arrive here on a shelf having just newly put a jar on it. So at this point I leave. I'll take the block back down to the bottom for convenience. So here's a jar. This jar has the value of 1. I am on... It contains a jar that is on the first shelf. So now I repeat. This jar right here is equivalent to that jar with a value of 0. When I have the number immediately following the one I'm carrying, so I take the 1, I put them inside each other. So I take the 1 and put it into the 0. Jar out. Then this goes into the chest. And I carry this up here. Enter it. Yeah, so I did all this, but with less understanding. I just enter this again up on shelf 0. Exit with block. Block is on shelf 0. Exit holding jar. And now a second jar is on shelf 1. This jar contains another jar on shelf 1. When I exit with a jar and bring it up to a shelf, like one in my hand instead of using a jar spot to newly create one, again, this is part of my procedure. I just had to tune my instincts to say, when I do that, I enter the jar immediately. Then I enter this jar. You'll see why it was so important to make this instinctual. We're going to be doing a lot of things. So at this point, I'm here, there are no jar spots. All I can do is carry the block out. So I carry the block out. Great, block is on shelf 1. And all I can do here, I have a jar spot, so I'm going to jar out. And now I have a jar on shelf 2. Okay. Carrying the block down. When I see 2 jar spots there unused, it means I'm at the chest. So at the, basically, 1 level deep, embedded just into the chest. So now, I have a jar with a value of 2. I'm going to put them progressively farther to the right. So 2 goes directly under the bucket. And I just need to keep track of the values of my jars, repeat this procedure, and eventually things will happen. Alright, jar with value of 0. I have no 1, so I take it straight back in here and do this procedure. This makes ability to put jar in shelf 1. Okay. So now I have a jar with a value of 1. Let's leave it there for now. I'll do my embeds when I'm going to do something with that jar of value 2 momentarily. So let's make another 0. I came up with a lot of different ways for labeling these things. This was the most intuitive I could find. Okay, so here's a 0. I have 2 contiguous numbers. 2 goes into 1. And then this new 1 goes into 0. And then this new 0 goes into the chest. And having done that, I cache everything in. Whenever there's a jar up high, jump into it. Whenever I'm in this situation, bring the block out. So it's an in, out, out rhythm. So that was my in, here's my out, out. So I'm back at chest level. I now have a jar in my hand that I newly brought there. I didn't just create it. There's a jar up high on a shelf, so I jump into it. There's a jar down there, ignore it. Don't think about that. It'll be important for later. So I jump in twice. I did my in. Now I'm doing an out, out. So the inner out always takes a block out. The outer out either creates a jar or takes an existing one. So since I'm taking an existing jar, that means here on shelf 2, I jump into the jar. And that ends me with another jar on shelf 2. There's a jar up high, I jump into it. So now, carry the block back out. Did I do this right? Yes. Yes, okay, so carry the block out. Block is on shelf 2 with a jar spot on the bottom. Alright, yes, here we go. Okay, so. Trust your instincts, they're correct. Newly created jar does not get jumped into. And I'm leaving, so for convenience I'll carry the block with me. Alright, so now I've manufactured a jar with a value of 3. And now we just kind of repeat this a whole lot. It's gonna be a bunch more. This is a very long puzzle to actually execute. Value of 0. I have no 1, so nothing I can do with it. Other than turn it into a 1. Procedure followed. Jar placed on shelf 1. Block carried back for convenience. Jar with value of 1 has been manufactured. Alright. So we have a 1 and a 3 down there. That throw is a little hard to do. So here's a 0, I have a 1. Take the 1 in. And... whoa, leave it here. Don't mess up. Whenever I take a higher number into a lower number, I immediately jar out. Do not enter that jar yet. Only when having entered the chest do I actually cache things in. Okay, so I'm caching in. Keep entering. Like, go wrong in one step of this and I destroy my work, and the nice thing about this puzzle is there's only really one way to actually get stuck, and that's to put the block down with the key without a way to retrieve it. I've done that! I have seen as far into here as having block where key is. I think I figured out what I need to do to fix that particular problem. I basically terminated my process too early. I do indeed need a full-blown value 5 jar. I just had the halfway, and it wasn't good enough. Like as if I were to enter this and call it a value 2. That's no good. Okay, so jar with value of 2 goes here. I can do something with that 3. I'll wait. Not do it yet. Just to keep things consistent. Oops. Well, well, that's fine. Let's redo. Also gotta be aware of, like, what to do when things go wrong, to not lose too much work. Okay, right. Yes, that's expected. Here's a jar. That threw off my rhythm completely. Alright, here's another jar. Don't enter it. I made the throw, so it's good. Alright, enter. This is probably the longest puzzle in this entire pack to execute when, even when knowing exactly what to do. I'm doing this reasonably quickly, I think. This jar has a value of 1. Okay, great. So here's a 1. And of course it gets quicker and quicker to manufacture numbers as they go down. Binary counting. Each one takes twice as long as the last, or so. I'm gonna make that throw. Because I just don't know what to do when I don't. Come on now. Yeah, close enough. Okay, this is a jar with a value of 0. I have a whole array of numbers here. 4, no, this is 3. 3 goes into 2. And I jar out. The new 2 goes into 1. And I jar out. The new 1 goes into my 0. And I jar out. Yeah, going in that rhythm makes me not forget the step of jarring out that last time and taking this into the chest. Okay, so we're gonna make a 4 now, I think. Keep going. Is it a 4 already? Or is it 3? It's 4. So we're making the 4. Okay. Jar was carried out of exit and onto a higher shelf, therefore enter jar. Enter jar, because there's one high up. Alright. Nothing to do here but to carry the block out. Just by knowing what to do for what each situation looks like, I relieve myself from having to think about the larger picture and keep track of everything in my head. This is a very useful tool. I just took a jar in. It's high up. Go into the jar. Alright. Go into the jar. Okay, so block comes out with me. Alright, there's still a jar down here. Carry it out. I don't even know what I'm carrying out here, but I do know that, having followed my procedure, there's going to be another one on the same shelf, on shelf 3. When I enter, I can enter shelf 3 again. Gonna have to carry that block down, but whatever. This part gets longer each time. I can kind of toss it down ahead of me, but that doesn't speed things up very much. Okay, so now don't celebrate too quick here, because while I can make this jar... Well, I am going to make this jar. While I can enter this jar right now and get the block and get the key, then the block will be stuck. This was the mistake I made last time, so don't terminate the process yet. Let's do the entire thing again. So yeah, look at episode runtime right now. Let's see if I double it by the time I have the second jar up there. Alright, here is a jar with a value of 5, the highest one. Okay. How can I speed this up? Let's see, I can kind of leave that there, and that'll throw off my rhythm, won't it? This is a 0. I don't have a 1. Actually, that's totally fine. Just don't land in that. Yes, block out. Jar out. Jar with value of 1 is created. Okay. Here's a 1. Gotta do the entire thing. Alright, yeah, that's a nice little shortcut. This is a 0. I have a 1. The 1 goes in the 0. Jar. Enter chest. Jar here. Jar can be up high. Might be confusing myself slightly, but it's fine. I just carried this in, so I want to enter it. Returning a 1 into a 2. Okay. Block onto shelf 1. Make jar. Just create a jar, so don't enter. Carry block down for convenience. Value is 2. Zero. And since I know I'm not going to check whether I have a 1, I don't. Whoa. Right. I'm doing something slightly different by just plopping that down on the floor right there. Normally I'd take it all the way up to this exact spot, which I call shelf 0. Anyway, right, yeah. So, jar now. To create a 1. Alright, here's a 1. It stays there. This is not a 0 yet. This is nothing. There we go, I nailed it. Alright, 0. 2 goes in 1. 1 goes in 0. 0 goes in chest. So chest is like -1. Or if I had numbered things differently, the chest could have been 0. The jar could be 1, whatever. The labels I've chosen. Muscle memory. Feels pretty natural now that I've spent this many hours working on it. Okay, just carried in a jar, so enter. Enter. Right, yes, block comes with me. And there's another jar to carry. Okay, let's try this backward block shuffling thing. Save some time. So I will be entering this. This doesn't really save me anything, does it? Probably not. So enter, and enter, and we're shuffling backward again. Exit with blocks. Yeah, that saved a little bit of time. Yeah, that was fine. Make jar to exit. We're creating the second 3. Alright. No, the third, fourth, I don't know, some number of 3. So here's a 3. This is going to be real satisfying when we cash in everything. 0, don't have a 1. And I do believe that this is the optimal way to do this. I don't think there's any way to go faster. This makes a lot of sense as kind of the ultimate puzzle of the pack. It wouldn't be necessary to have gone in the order that I went in. I just turned a 0 into 1. I slightly lost track of what I was doing. But yeah, I just turned it a 0 into 1. I didn't carry that jar in, I manufactured it. So here's a 1. Binary counters just be like this. This is how they are. This is a 0, I have a 1, 1 goes into it. Okay. Do this, go to chest. It's still on enter chest cooldown. There's still a jar up high, so enter it. Right. I carried this in, so enter it. There's still a jar up high, so enter it. Alright. I think this is a 1 turning into a 2. That's what's happening. It's a lot to keep track of. I feel like this would get its point across well enough if there were like 1 shelf fewer. But this just makes absolutely sure I understand what's happening. Here's a 3. Or sorry, that's a 2. Here's a 2. Call it by the right name. I didn't nail that, but close enough. I don't have a 1. I'm about to. Oh, where am I? Okay, yeah. So this goes here. Concentrating this hard for this long sure does take some effort. This is becoming a 1, I'm pretty sure? I hope I'm doing this right. If not, I just lose a little bit of work. Okay, I don't think I made a mistake. This is a 1 now. Alright, so check it. Got a full suite. Here is my 0. Let's nail this. Let's nail this. There we go. Great. Alright. 0. 4 goes into 3. Zoom. 3 goes into 2. 2 goes into 1. Uh-huh. 1 goes into 0. 0 goes into the chest. Alright, so here we go. The final climb. There's a jar up high, so enter it. Block comes out when I'm in this situation. Jar comes out in this situation. There's a jar up high, so enter it. There's a jar up high, so enter it. Block comes out. Let's not do any block shortcutting just so I'm sure I know what I'm doing. Okay, block stays here. Jar comes out. Yeah, I mean, well, I do know what I'm doing. It's fine. So I'm entering that jar. It's up high. Yeah, so I'm at chest level now. Alright, so... Enter. Enter. Carry out block. Carry out jar. Block shuffle. Enter the jar up high. Block shuffle. Okay, so here we go. Block is on shelf 3. Final jar comes in. Now, let's be extremely careful here. I can take this down, right? Oh boy. Alright, am I sure about this? I think I have something wrong. I need that block. Shoot, I just ran through this and, no, this has to be right. This is right. Yes, okay, I'm thinking of it wrong. I enter the jar. I enter the jar. Keep following the procedure. It's gonna work. Oh! Enter the jar. I carry the block out. Yeah. This still makes sense. It's just real confusing right at the end. So yeah, here's what I do. I put the block down here and I jar out. Whoa, not yet. Before I jar out. Actually, this key will not be retrieved. Okay, but there's another one up one level from there. That'll be fine. I'll put it there just in case I have something wrong. So I jar, which puts me up here. Here we go. That's the block's return jar. That's the key I'll be taking. Yep, we got this. Okay. So keys are up in both places. I can actually get either key. I'll take both. I mean, I can't take both, but you know. Alright, so the block is down. Keys are accessible. Actually, I can't take both. This key is inaccessible, so I'm glad I put that other one up high. Yeah, okay. Okay, good. My insurance policy came in handy. Alright, great. Here we go. Key is accessible. Block is accessible. It did take exactly twice as long, though there was like 2 minutes of hesitation there as I figured out what my very last step was. Yo, check it. That's a solve. Oh. That was cool. Alright, that's well. That is a lot of work to do, but very satisfying. Okay, good. So, one final puzzle to go, and it is the elevator crystal. I'll show you my state-of-the-art on this. So here's what I know right now. The best thing that I know to do is to go into this 3 times to create a couple of jar spots up there. Enter the water, make a water jar, make another inside that, put the chest into this jar, exit with the jar. Again, we've kind of been over this stuff already. Exit with a jar, and I'm up here. Okay, so what I have is jar full of water, chest up high, and 2 usable jar spots here. So I'm going to jar, and I'm going to jar. And I'm going to take this block into this jar. So here's what I have. Got a stack of 2 blocks, a third one would get me to the crystal. And that seems to me so far like the best way I could get to that crystal. This contains... Right, yeah, so I go into this jar empty-handed because I have nothing else to take, really. The chest will already be there. I can't have brought anything else with me. I want these blocks here because this is the layer where I'll be getting the crystal, in theory. So what I want to do now... The action that from this state would win me the puzzle would be to take this block through that exit down there. So in order to do that, what I would have to do is take this block into the chest, move the chest down here, and then exit. And then exit again, and I'd be there, if I could carry the block with me. So this right here is... Okay, so... I need... oh boy, where am I? Let's see. So, hang on. I absolutely need an entry into the chest right here on this layer while holding the block or something that contains it. Doing that right now with just the block does me no good. So yeah, that exit, if the chest were down on the bottom, would win me the puzzle. So here's what I can do to get the block into something that contains it. I take it into the water jar, I take that into the chest, which is now wet, I create a new water jar containing the block, I exit again to get rid of that non-jar spot place, and here's my entry into the chest, holding an object that contains the block. Cool, and now I can actually do something. So here's an entry into the jar that will preserve this location. And that's great. So now here's where I get stuck. From this state, I need to somehow transport the chest down without also being inside the chest up here. And that's the part I can't do. I could exit now with the block, and I would end up at the bottom with the chest up here, unable to get back. So I just lose my resources. Yeah, okay, so one exit from here is the jar down at the bottom in the dry, where the chest needs to be. I could exit with the chest and get it there, but I can't. It takes two hands to hold both of these objects. If I could hold one in each hand, I'd be done. Also, no other puzzle in this game would work. So I can make a new water jar if I want. Like, this is the closest I have to actually getting anything done, but it doesn't get the right thing done. This suspicious spot up here that I haven't used yet allows me to dry out this chest. If I enter a dry chest, I end up at the bottom with nothing. All I can do is exit. So, it stands to reason I would probably want to take this jar with me that would get me back up top. That block is still there. I can still pull it out from this layer. Here's the problem. Yes, I can put the jar in here. Yes, I can retrieve the chest with it and transport the chest down to the bottom. However, I'm inside the chest twice right now, and I need to only be in it once. Chest is at the bottom, but when I exit, I'm in the flooded basement with nothing I can do. My block is trapped up there, my exit is trapped up there, and I cannot go. From here I can make another water jar, but it doesn't help me. I guess, like, if from this state I could transport myself back up without transporting the chest up? See, but that's impossible. And yeah, this is as far as I've gotten. This doesn't, like, chest back up here. Cool. But I entered a jar in the flooded basement, therefore dooming me. So that's how you die. And like, yeah, the other way around. I feel like this is close, or maybe it has some major fundamental error in it and I need actually a completely different approach. Feels like it's one or the other. Like, all these steps seem very solid, and like, at every decision point, I have very few choices, it seems like. Like, I'm just doing what makes the most sense at each decision point. And it just doesn't seem like there's anything else that could help me at any point anywhere in here. Like, all of this makes sense. I do these things, I rejar the block, get it back up here, so that I can have the chest entry, because, like, I have to exit with that block, and the only way I'm ever doing that is by teleporting from the top to the bottom. But just, like, means of moving the chest down are extremely limited. Moving the chest up is a little easier because I have access to both wet and dry there in the neutral space. Just... how would I? So down here, that chest entry that's supposed to transport me to the place, and I can't change the wetness of a jar. A jar is either wet or dry no matter what I enter it in. Because yeah, like, I can exit with the chest now. Chest would be down there. Cool. If only the block were with me. If it were with me right here at this layer, which it can't be, then I'd have it here and I'd have the crystal. So, that's what I have on Elevator. It's the very last puzzle in this entire pack. I am convinced now that the hieroglyphs here are not telling me there's another ruby. That just because there cannot be. There is nowhere for there to be a ruby, and everywhere that I could have paradoxed, I paradox. I think the one and only puzzle that contains a permanent chest that I did not paradox in was Rabbit Hole. And what Rabbit Hole doesn't contain is anything that could ever destroy a chest. It is impossible to destroy a chest in Rabbit Hole, so there's no paradox here. Unless there's some trick I don't know about. Like, the closest thing to chest destruction there is the off-screen area at the top of the room, but I can't use that to destroy a chest. And when I'm up there, I also can't exit. So no, that's not it. Yeah, so I have everything in the outside world, and I have everything but the elevator crystal, but the elevator crystal eludes me. So I'm probably going to have to try a radically different approach, because that's a pretty firm dead end that I ran into there, I think. There's no... I checked, like, every boundary of every decision point I could make there and saw nothing else I could do to improve my situation. So, very close. If I can work that out, we can maybe end this next time. It'd be neat to be able to solve everything here without having to go for hints. That's been the case so far. No hints. I've done it all. But just like this last one, I don't get it. Alright, so, but I got this very satisfying crystal in well. I'm down to one thing. Alright, I'll see you next time for hopefully a solution, or maybe not.